Okay, good evening, everybody. It is 7:31 on Thursday, March 25th, 2021, and this is a meeting of the Advisory Committee. We actually don't have any transfers to consider tonight, so really the only thing on our agenda is to review the draft of the advisory statement, which is what would go into the warrant, and then we could approve the meeting minutes submitted by Bill Nichols, which looked great. I also, before we get started with the statement, I just wanted to mention for Bob and Bill, like this statement sort of has a fairly standard format that we've been following, but we also typically do a short presentation at town meeting. And so we'll have another chance between now and really the end of April to like look at what sort of slides we might want to present. So I don't want you to feel like this is our only opportunity to highlight certain things for the public.
Okay.
So I think what I'll do is I can share my screen, which will show you the draft. All right. Can you all see that?
Yep.
So this revenue table, we've been using this format for pretty much as long as I've been involved. And I guess I just wanted to find out if you had any questions about any of the numbers. I mean, basically the numbers for FY22 were pulled directly out of the budget spreadsheets that we've been working from.
So I didn't have any questions. It all looked good to me.
Okay. And then again, the expenditures table, consistent format. The highlights of the things that we're spending money on, I didn't go into a ton of detail, but I did think it was just good mentioning once again that our figure for debt costs this year doesn't actually include the debt costs that we expect for in FY23 for the fire truck. And I'm sure that'll be explained to the town meeting verbally too. But I do have this paragraph that kind of touches on the larger capital spending items. And then I'm hoping that they don't change the article numberings. I don't think they will. And then I did think maybe it would be helpful for me to just spend a little bit of time on this to explain where these numbers came from. So Anne and Craig are familiar with, we've kind of have these rough best practice targets that we kind of take a look at the very end to see how we ended up. So this target where it says achieve certified free cash of X%, what we're doing there is we're taking the free cash that was certified in July and comparing it. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll just show you the spreadsheet. Okay, yeah. So basically what it is this is the free cash that was certified at the end of FY21, which is what is available to us now for different capital purchases. And then we compare that to the total FY21 expenditures, because we don't like when we finalized our FY21 budget last year, we didn't know what that ultimate free cash number was going to end up being in July. But that's why we have our like rough target of leaving 350 in free cash at the end of each budget cycle, because we're trying to make sure that the total free cash is ends up being roughly 3 to 5% of that prior fiscal year's budget. And we came up a little bit short for FY21. Then the other target was leaving at least $350,000 of free cash. So we're pretty close. We're leaving 348, 506. So that's not terrible. The other one is we want to maintain overall reserves of 6 to 10% of the operating budget net of debt. And so I'll just show you what that is basically right here. This cell is operating budget minus debt for FY22. And then right here, we have basically our three sources of reserves. We have our general stabilization fund plus our wastewater treatment stabilization, which is being depleted to roughly $23 because we're using 21,000 of it to pay for some capital projects this year. Then there's the overlay reserve, which is essentially an amount that is held in reserve. The assessors are sort of in charge of that account, but it is available to us. And every year the balance changes. And then the other reserves are really just free cash. And so that total this year ends up being 7.93%. So that's good. We're within our 6 to 10% range. Then we want debt service payments of no more than 5 to 7% of general fund revenues. We're actually even a little bit lower than 5% this year, but I don't think that's terrible because I have a feeling next year we're going to be going back up to within the 5 to 7% because we'll have the borrowing for the fire truck. And the last thing is just funding 100% of our OPEB actuarially determined contribution. And so we basically what it is, we figure out we're told what the actuarially determined contribution should be, and then what we actually appropriate for it. Usually we try to make sure they're the same, and this year we did. And just for some context, so I want to say 3 years ago maybe, we actually had to use some free cash to meet this target. Like we couldn't pay our entire OPEB obligation within the operating budget. We had to put some free cash toward it, which we decided to do. So that's where those numbers come from. But as you saw it, we just kind of give it in simplified form to the folks at town meeting. So that is where we are. Any questions?
Yeah, Brian, this is Bill. So if we get into a scenario where we exceed the allowable under Prop 2.5, is the stabilization fund the first pot of money to tap?
No. So it would depend on what it was we needed to pay for. So if it were capital projects that were sort of outside of what we consider operating expenses, then I think in theory we could tap into reserves stabilization for that. But to fund an operating budget that we basically didn't have enough revenue for, I believe we'd have to seek a Prop 2.5 override.
Okay.
Brian, I got a random question. So that when we balance out the expenditures and the revenues is an estimate. If the revenue that comes in a fiscal year is more than what we expected, does the excess just like get certified as excess free cash, or what happens with that?
Yeah, so that's basically my understanding of it, that it gets certified as free cash, and it's kind of, I think it rolls into the general fund for use as free cash the following year. And that's why that free cash number gets certified at the end of the fiscal year. So we'll basically, at the end of June, we'll find out how much more revenue we took in than estimated.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Yep. Any other questions? Craig or Ann, are you all set?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good.
All right. Well, then I don't think we really need to like make a formal motion to approve that. But I do think somebody should make a motion to approve the minutes that Bill submitted.
I move we approve the minutes that Bill submitted.
I second that.
All right, all in favor, Bill,
Aye.
Bob,
I,
Ann,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
and I'm a yes as well. And then why don't we just quickly talk scheduling, because it won't be as easy to do that once we're in the Board of Selectmen's meeting. So I believe the town moderator will probably organize a pre-annual town meeting at the end of April. And so we should decide by the middle of April what sorts of slides or presentation we want to make to annual town meeting. So I thought either the 13th or the 20th, we should meet to talk about that. And if it's okay, I mean, like if you're all available on both of those dates, I'd like to keep it flexible so I can check in with Doug Story and find out what date that actual meeting is going to be, because I'd like, if we can wait until the 20th, I'd prefer to wait until the 20th, but are you all available on the 13th or the 20th?
As far as I know.
Yep.
Okay, good.
I think so.
Great. Awesome. Well, we can adjourn this meeting, and do you all have the link to go over to the Board of Selectmen?
Yep. So Brian, just to clarify, so going forward between now and town meeting, those are the events that, I mean, that's what we have left to get through, right?
Yeah, I mean, unless there's some sort of a surprise, I don't think that we'll have really any, we might have, like, we might get transfer requests or something that we need to deal with, but that's the main event, is preparing for that pre-town meeting and then town meeting itself.
Okay.
All right.
We just log off and then go on to the Board of Selectmen meeting?
Yeah, well, we don't need to adjourn because we're continuing our meeting, but yeah, we can just log off. I'll end this and I'll see you over there.
Okay.
All right,
Sounds
thank
good.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.